1, 2, 3, 4.
Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, lai. Lai, lai, lai. Lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. Boker Tov, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Boker Tov. 185. What a gift it is to gather on this brilliant autumn morning with the sun warming the rain. We drop into this place of respite, of Shabbat, of prayer. I enter this sacred space to voice the longings of my heart in prayer. In sacred company, I offer my love to the Holy One. I devote myself this morning to psalm and song, study and prayer. May my heart be lifted. May my thoughts be deepened. And may my soul, like the eagle, soar.
Continuing with gratitude for the miraculous reunification of body and soul, 186. Mode ani
lefanecha melech chai v'kayam modani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam.
Lifting up our eyes and turning the page, 188.
At the bottom, Esa Einai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Esa Einai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la la la. First, orienting ourselves in this space. As we pray this morning, we reach for our Mishkan Tfilah, our prayer book, our Siddur. And for those who are joining us virtually, feel free to go to the PDF at the bottom of the live stream link. Open a split screen or bring a second device so that you can follow prayer and participate fully with us. As you sit in the room, be aware. We should never know from it, but if ever we needed to exit the synagogue in an emergent fashion, we could always go out the door you came in. There are 5 doors through the social hall, 2 that go out to the side yard, 2 that go out to the lobby, and the one in the back goes through the kitchen to the back wing of the synagogue, where there are 2 additional exits. And always there is an exit up on the bima, an emergency exit behind our rabbinic intern, Jack Sherritt, if ever we needed it. Now, 194. Settle into your seat and use your third eye to do a body scan of gratitude for your physicality. Something worked this morning that enabled each one of us to arrive here. It's so interesting that intentional practices sometimes begin with what's difficult, what's closed, or what is narrow, or what is painful. Bring compassion if you are holding suffering inside your being, but equally bring gratitude for this possibility of the gift of physicality. 194. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhma, uvaravo nikavim, chalulim, galui v'yadua lifnei chisei chivodecha, she'im יפתח אחד מהם, או יסתם אחד מהם. אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר, ומפליא לעשות. 196. Breathe in, nishima. Breathe out, nishama, breath and soul, uniting us with this gift of our unique selves. Elohai nishama shenatata b'tehorahi. Elohai nishama shenatata b'tehorahi. Elohai nishama shenatata bi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Baruch ata Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai veruach kol basar ish. Amen. 198 begins the litany of Birkot HaShachar, a sense of gratitude for the miracles abounding. I welcome you to join me with your insert sheet as we hold an alternative Louis Armstrong prayer for Birkot HaShachar. She'ani ro'eh b'chaloni ein shemorik lecha v'gam li ani shar le'atzmi eze achla olam. Hashamayim chulim anan hu lavan v'haboker bahir uvalayla ishan v'achlom atzmi eze achla olam. V'chol tzivei hakeshet yafim v'chadashim פרוסים אחרי הגשם על פני האנשים, והיום כה יפה וקל לי כל כך לומר שאני אוהב אותך. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. Hashamayim cholim, anan hu lavan, v'haboker bahir, uvalayla ishan, v'achlom la'atzmi, eze achla olam, ani shar la'atzmi, eze achla olam.
213. Hareini mizamein et pi lahodot, ul halel, ul shabeach et spori. Baruch atah Adonai melech mechulal, tishbaot.
215. Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha Od Yehalelucha Od Yehalelucha Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha Od Yehalelucha Od Yehalelucha 218. Finding Hallel in every aspect of the universe. Hallelujah, El Bikocho, Hallelujah, Birkiozo, Hallelujah, Bihurotav, Hallelujah, Kirov Gulo, Hallelujah, Bateka Shofar, Hallelujah, Benever Bechinor, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Betofu Machol, Hallelujah, Minim Ve'ugab, Hallelujah, Betziltzalei Shama, Hallelujah, Betziltzalei Trua, Kol Anshama, Tehalleluya, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. 224. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divrach irute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchayedecho beit Yisrael Ba'agala, Ba'agala, Uvizman Kariv, V'immeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam ul'al Omaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei d'kudesha berichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata dahamiran be'alma v'immeru. Amen.
Truly, the mysteries of the universe abounds. And now I invite you to stand as we enter the mystery together. 226.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch et Adonai. Ya la 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 la. La Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Va'ed. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei choshech, oseh shalom uvarei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mal'ach ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shavach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita, yifarucha selah.
Or Hadash al Tzion Ta'ir, or Hadash al Tzion Ta'ir, or Hadash al Tzion Ta'ir, or Hadash al Tzion Ta'ir. V'nizke chulanu mehera leoro. V'nizke chulanu mehera leoro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer hameorot. 230, full of infinite love, full of the possibility of what that moves in us as we meet this Sabbath. Ahava Rabbah, Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai HaShekhinah, gracing us with surpassing compassion on account of our forebears, whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well, O merciful one. Have mercy on us by making us able to understand, to discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. V'ha'ereneinu b'toratecha, v'dahabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levaveinu le'ahava u'li'ra et shemecha, v'lo Devosh Velo Nikalem Velo Nikashel Leolam Va'ed Ki V'Shem Kodshecha Hagadol Hanora V'Hatachnu Nagila v'nismecha, Nagila v'nismecha, B'Yeshuatecha. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. For you, HaShekhinah, work wonders. You choose us. Truly you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava.
Wanting you to rise as you are able as we bear witness to the 1, 232.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Vod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. 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 Daniel, you can hardly see me smiling behind my mask, but know that you just made my morning.
Same.
234. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta baham v'shivtecha bevetecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam leot ahal yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha.
236, middle of the page. Adonai said to Moses as follows: Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner, that they shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes and your lustful urge. Continuing. Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kadoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 241. The good in us will win over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done. We will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing. And the good that is in us, children in their cradles, will have won together. Our heart beats with certainty that there is a day and an hour and a mountain called Zion, and that all the suffering will gather there and become a song, ringing out into every corner of the earth from end to end. And the nations will hear it, and the caravans in the desert will all to that morning throng. 240. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai 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 la 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 la. Yai lai 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 la la la. Yai lai 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 la 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 la. Bichamocha ba'elim Adonai. Bichamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh, Nora tehilot osef eleh. Shira chadasha shibchu le'ulim ve'leshimcha asfatayam ze'eli yachad kulam hodu ve'imru hodu ve'imru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed Tzur Yisrael Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael Uvtechenu mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai Sivaot Shemo Kedosh Shemo Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. 242. Dear God, open up the blocked passageways to you, the congealed spaces. Roll away the heavy stone from the well as your servant Jacob did when he beheld his beloved Rachel. Help us open the doors of trust that have been jammed with hurt and rejection as you open the blossoms in spring, even as you open the heavens in storm. Open us to feel your great, awesome, wonderful presence. As you are able, standing together, 242. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalalai lai lai, yalalai lai lai, Yalla lai lai lai, la la lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai 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 lai. 244. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Gula Livnei Bneihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah. 246. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayei metim atarav lehoshia Mashiv haruach Umorid hagashem Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayei metim berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofech cholim Umatir asurim Umkayem emunato Lishenei afar Micha mocha bal givurot Umido melach Melech memit umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah l'chayot metim Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hametim. For all that is kadosh. 248. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom Kachatuv al yad nevi'echa V'kara ze el ze ve'amar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Zevaot, Meloch haaretz, Kevodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu ma'adir, Shimcha bechol haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai. Mimchomo Echadu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu V'Hu Yashmienu Berachamav Le'enei Kol Chai Ani Adonai Elohechem Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Ichzion Ledor Vador Hallelujah Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagid Gadlecha Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagi Godlecha Ulenetzach Netzachim Kedushatecha Nakdish Kedushatecha Nakdish Veshivchecha Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yamush Le'olam Le'olam Va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 250 Yismechu B'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat Yismechu B'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shevi Shabbat Kulam yisbe'u v'yitangu metuvecha Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Oneg Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat V'hashvi'i Ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat Chemdat Yamim Oto karata Shabbat Zecher Lema'aseh Bereshit Shabbat Zecher Lema'aseh Bereshit Shabbat Yismechu B'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat Yismechu B'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat. Indulging in song and celebration together, in prayer and blessings. The Amidah traditionally guides us to know that there's also a place for individual expression, individual dialogue with the One. Now, the traditional tefillah continues through page 260. As you are able or as you choose, you remain standing until you have completed all of your prayers. Be certain to not stop with what is written, but to indulge in the white spaces, in what prayers you are holding in your heart. יהיו לרצון. אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. 362. En kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim heitiva vertzoncha et Zion, tivne chomot Yerushalayim, ki vecha levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, Adon olamim. 364. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion Tetzei Torah Udvar Adonai MiYerushalayim Se'u She'arim Roshechem U'Se'u Pitrei Olam V'yavo Melech HaKavod Mihu ze melech hakavod Adonai Tzevaot Hu melech hakavod Selah 366 Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'Kdushato. We pray responsively with our rabbinic intern, Jack Sheriff.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai eti, uneromema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hachol. Ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz, ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, v'hamit nahaseh lechol lerosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Good morning. Please be seated. This morning we are reading the Parasha Vayera. You can lay down your siddur and reach for your Plaut Blue Torah. As you turn to Genesis 21, verse 1, please look for page 132. For the first aliyah, it is with an open heart that I call our amazing Debbie Beck from Florida to the Torah, both to bless and to read the first aliyah. Na la'amo devora mi beit Avraham v'Sarah le'aliyah harishona.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'Adonai pekad et Sarah ka'asher amar, vayas Adonai l'Sarah ka'asher diber, v'tahar v'telet Sarah la'Avraham bein l'zkunav l'moed asher diber oto Elohim, vayikra Avraham et shem beno hanolad lo, asher yelda lo Sarah Yitzchak. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So for the second aliyah, as I read, I want to be able to honor Daniel's parents. So I'm going to ask Benji and Rita to come forward for this aliyah. Yeah. So what I am going to ask you to do is not be too close to me, because the reason I'm masked is because I am post-COVID. I am safe to be out, but I don't need you close. So you'll come, stand up, come. Okay. So, Benji, I know your Hebrew name. Can you tell me your mom and your dad's Hebrew names? Dad's Hebrew name?
Yoel.
And mom?
I know her name is Vera. I don't know.
Vera is perfect. Okay. And, well, we don't have a Hebrew name yet. We're good. I'm going to, as I call the parents of baby Daniel forward, after we read the aliyah, we're going to have a moment to announce his full name to the congregation and to actually say a Shehechianu with you. You guys have moved like right into the middle of our hearts. And when we see you drive up, and first with the belly and now with the baby, it was enough just to have the two of you, but to have the three of you moves us to joy bashamayim, in the heavens. Nala amod horim shel tinok Daniel Rita v'Benji le kavod hazeh Yoel Binyamin mi beit Yoel v'Vira la'aliyah hashenit. It's great what you guys did. Let's switch this around. You take this, and you take this. Here we go. Do you want, hold on, Benji. I didn't realize, would you like this one? Okay. I didn't think that. Okay, great. Here we go. Go for it. Okay, guys. Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Amen. Vayahamal Avraham et Yitzchak beno ben shmonat ya'amim ka'asher tziva oto Elohim. Ve'Avraham ben me'at shana behivaled lo et Yitzchak beno, vatomer Sarah Tzahak asali Elohim kol hashomeya yitzchak li. Turn your sheets over, my friends. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Baby Daniel's full name is Daniel ben, the son of Mi Beit Binyamin Varita. We are filled with a sense of miracle, gratitude, joy to the one who has given life and sustained life and enabled the two of you to reach this moment of unbelievable joy with your baby. We say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Mazel tavu, mazel tavu, simin tav, simin tavu, mazel tavu, mazel tavu, simin tav, simin tavu, mazel tavu, simin tav, yehelanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael, David melech Yisrael, Chai v'kayam. So we are amazed and thrilled, and we invite you to come to the other side. You guys are good. I'll take those from you. May Daniel have many, many, many years of showing up in this place Shabbat morning, Friday nights, loving the melodies that he doesn't even realize he's learning at this moment. And may you have the privilege of raising this baby into adulthood and watching him grow to be the person he was meant to be as he creates his own family and brings blessings in the world. May you, Ad Mea V'Esrim, just have nachat upon nachat upon nachat. So we're so thrilled. Pausing for a moment to bring prayers of healing. You're good, you stay, okay? You're good. Prayers of healing for members of our congregation who are in need of healing. As I say the traditional prayer with the Torah open, filled with joy, but also knowing that we hold members of our community who are struggling in our hearts. When I pause and share the names, if you have additional names, you will let me know. Mi sheberach avotenu ve'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, ve'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, ve'Leah, hu yivarech et acholim, Lou Klein, Shlod Kloider, Sally Anderson, Ruth, Bat, Sarah, Avraham, Todd Albelli, Mark Aldrich, Sally Anderson, Amelia Byers, Audrey Cohn, Irene Dillon, Angela Demer, David Fay, Ellie Edovitz, Ilona Johnson, Ken Lijak, Karen Martinez, Susan Otsenes, Merle Perlmutter, Zorian Pinsky, Claude Schleuder, Kahana Skolnick, Bev Ushko, Ben Wilder, Lauren Petties. Prayers for healing. Thank you.
David Eisenstadt, Maureen Doyle, and Martha Rosen for their kidney interest.
Kate Barnhart.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem Lachlimam Ulerafotam Ulachzikam V'Yishlach Lahem Meira Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Refuat HaGuf Hashtei Bagalav Izman Kariv V'Nomar Amen. For the third and final Aliyah, I want to call Evelyn Rosenthal. Had to think about that, Evie. couldn't call it in. We are still on page 132 as we continue chapter 21, verse 7. Na la'amod Chava mi beit Yona v'tova la'aliyah ha'shlishit. And you know, if either of you need to go to, I mean, it sounds like Daniel's fine, but if you need to go, you just go, if you're worried.
We are fine.
Okay, great.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'alamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Amen. Vatomer mi milela Avraham Henika vanim Sarah ki yaladeti ben liskunav vayigdal hayeled vayigamal vayas Avraham mishtei gadol beyom higamel et Yitzchak vatera Sarah et ben Hagar hamitzrit asher yalda la'Avraham mitzachek.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam
Nata v'tochenu.
Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Nalakum, if you would, if you are able, as you are able, please rise. Yesher kochech, yesher kochechem. For Hagba and Galila, I call Susan Hirsch to join me. Nala amod Hagba v'Galila. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei v'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Can you get everything, please? Torah tziva lanu Moshe. I got it now. Torah, and now you start rapping. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu, down at the bottom, in the middle. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Ki metzion tehe Torah udvar Adonai. Thank you. Yerushalayim. Ki metzion tehe Torah udvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki metzion tehe Torah udvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki metzion Tetzei Torah, Udvar Adonai, Mirushalayim. The Haftorah can be found on page 152. I'm reading the end of the Haftorah, 2 Kings 4:32 through 37. 152. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzah v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek amen. Vayavo Elisha habayta v'hinei hana'ar met mushkav al mitato vayavo vayiskor hadelet be'ad shnehem vayitpalel El Adonai vayal vayishkav al hayeled vayasem piv al piv ve'enav al enav v'chapav al kapav vayighar alav vayachom besar hayaled vayashov vayelech babayit achad hena ve'echad hena Vayal, Vayighar, Alav, Vayizorer, Hana'ar, Ad Sheva Pe'amim, Vayivkach, Hana'ar, Et Einav. Rita, this is the story of your mother and you when the person came to the door. Vayikra el Gehazi Vayomer Kra el Ashunamit Hazot Vayikareha Vatavo Elav Vayomer Se'i Venech Vatavo Vatipol al Raglav Vatishtachu arza vatisa et benaha vatetze. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el hane'eman האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, Boker Tov.
Boker Or.
Welcome back to Torah Talk, Torah Time, continuing our conversation with the Torah text and in lifting up Torah stories that aren't often raised. Looking last time together at some of the magical, mystical creatures that populate our Torah story, and looking this morning at the generations of women and the role they play throughout the story, in this place in this story. And so approaching this morning's Parsha by Era, with curiosity and also an awareness that we're looking at women characters in the Torah in this moment, in their time. So at a snapshot, beginning first with Sarah, who's just been informed that at about age 90 will have a son, a baby. Of course, she overhears this, standing outside the tent. The news is actually delivered to Abraham, who finds it so absurd he falls on his face and laughs. Sarah, too, says to herself, now that I'm so old, my husband is so old, I should have a baby. And Sarah laughs. The Midrash, the literature, the commentary, history has not been quite as kind to Sarah as it has been to Abraham. And part of me wonders what you think about that. What's that about? For Abraham, it's joy. There's a baby. He falls on his face. He's laughing. For Sarah, it's subversive. It's derision. It's doubt.
She doesn't even menstruate anymore. I mean, it seems to go against all physical possibility. So she finds it clearly hard to believe. It's never happened before, as far as she knows.
Jack, you have to repeat what she says for the people on the.
I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing.
No, it's okay for everybody.
So for those joining us remotely, Vicky shared that when Sarah responds with laughter and sort of an expression which some have heard as doubt, she's like, but I don't bleed anymore. My body doesn't do that. I'm old. I've passed that time. How can this be now? Also, my husband is 100. He's old. How can this be now after all this time?
When I was first reading it here, the thought flashed through my head, Immaculate Conception.
Immaculate Conception.
Wow.
Right, which is a theme that plays out in the New Testament with Mary and Jesus. There's no sex act that leads to the birth of the Christian Messiah. Is that what we read here? Is that the Jewish understanding of this story? And yet, there's something miraculous.
Can you point out where Abraham's laughing?
I can point out where Abraham is laughing. Actually, we have to read backwards for when Abraham laughs.
So, Evie, I just want to say that the word that we have is pakad. Elohim pakad et Sarah. And when Jack says that there is no intimacy or sexual act, it's actually even more than that. Pakad is just, it sometimes gets translated as visited, but it doesn't actually even mean visited. It means that the source designated, that there was a presence of the divine. And I think that, it's a fair thing to ask that question, Immaculate Conception, but that's a foreign concept in Judaism. And that there's another piece that we're staying with Jack, but I just want to say what we would want to do is look at pakad And all of those places that pakad happens for people in the Torah. And it's sort of this miraculous place when you, the individual, are aware of and feel the presence of the divine. So I just want to say that. And before you leave, I love that Palu is asking us to go see where it happened for Abraham, because I really resent this. Like, Abraham rejoices, but Sarah doesn't rejoice. Maybe she's just rejoicing. And then I just had a thought this morning that I hadn't really thought about lately, but when I was reading the Torah and I was reading the word tzachak, and it was on a zakef gadol, I was thinking about the fact that a lot of times we laugh when we're uncertain or feel a little shaky. And it's sort of very human. It's not one of disbelief, but it's discomfort. And just picking up on what you said, Jack, and is, as a person who's older, the thought, I have grandchildren, and the thought of ever being the person doing that at this point, I did it, right? I did it 3 times or 5 times, depending on how you count my children. But the thought of doing it now, in my 60s, I'm like, oh no, and she was much more than her 60s. Sorry, take it away.
Thank you. And also, in answer to your question, it's 17:17. So reading backwards, God said to Abraham, Sarah, your wife, called Sarah no more, become 17:17. The news comes to Abraham. Abraham fell flat on his face and laughed, thinking, can a child be born to a man of 100? And can a 90-year-old Sarah bear a child? Which, doesn't sound that different. This a question that Abraham asks. There's joy, perhaps. We don't know. But he asks the same questions. How? How is this possible? He falls on his face laughing. She sort of chuckles to herself, wondering how. And the commentary is not quite so kind to Sarah. And, there is this question about Sarah and about her fertility, but Sarah, in her body, that plays out actually throughout the next part of the story. But what I want to point to first is that we don't know why either one of them laughs. We don't know. We don't know the motivation. The Torah doesn't tell us. It just says they laugh, and we fill in the gap. And the gap has been filled in for Abraham because he was overjoyed, and for Sarah, something else, not so kind. Doubt, derision, subversion. But we don't know. And so it's just want to hold curiosity in your mind as we read forward, because this question actually continues to come up in the next part of the story. And I understand that, Vicki, this is a question that you brought to the Torah study about Abraham and Sarah sojourning, encountering King Abimelech, and not once but twice, Abraham saying, tell them you're my sister.
And can I actually add one more thing, just to pay attention to this point that you and Palu are pointing out? It's interesting because when Abraham laughs, he was directly addressed by God. I just want to say that.
She didn't know. She overheard it.
She wasn't directly addressed by God. Right. I'm glad that you're reacting that way, Vicki, because that is even more offensive. And the double standard that we have for women, that's it's something we talked about, that when I'm in a board meeting and I'm emphatic, people say to me, Rabbi, don't yell. But if my male counterpart was emphatic, they'd be like, yes, Rabbi.
That's right.
So
there is this double standard that's playing out.
I feel like 21:6 to me shows what laughing is to Sarah.
21:6. So Paulu's just pointing us to 21:6, which I've not found just yet. And the question or comment is that we learn here what laughter means to Sarah. So with the birth of Isaac.
Yeah, but it's specifically what she's saying.
Can you say more? Can you say more?
There seems to be a positiveness to
like an element of joy, which makes sense. To be barren in Torah time is to have one's status, value, questioned, and compromised. We are to understand that this is a thing, this is something that Sarah wanted, and now has. And so we would expect joy. I would expect laughter. I would expect some confusion. It makes sense, and yet the story that we're told is that there's something subversive in Sarah's response. But the confusion continues because when Abraham instructs Sarah to say to Abimelech, "You're my sister," is taken into the palace. Why? Because she's beautiful. And ostensibly, again, the Torah doesn't say explicitly, but we are meant to think that it's because Abimelech wants Sarah to be his wife. But we've just learned she's 90. She's about to have a baby. We don't know whether she's with child yet, but like she's an old woman. And here we're reading that Abimelech wants Sarah for his wife. And it's a bit about like, we learn actually explicitly later when God sort of intervenes on Sarah's behalf and says, "Oh, no, Abimelech, no." Like it's conveyed to us, the reader, our careful reader, that Abimelech's intention is to take Sarah for a wife. Yeah. And so is she a woman who's able to have a baby? She's an old woman, she's a young woman, she's wanted by Abimelech as a wife. How are we to make sense of Sarah and how she's described in this story? This is one chapter to the next.
I have a question. It seems like we've been told by Rabbi and others here that the Bible or the Torah doesn't have a particular order in certain ways. Like, could age be along with that? I mean, is like age, do people literally live to like 126? I mean, is that just a number, or is it a mystical meaning? Or was she really 90 when she met Pharaoh? Or was she younger? Or was she 90 and younger at the same time? I mean, you know what I mean?
Was she old? Was she young? Yeah. It's not clear. We know from what Sarah herself says, "I am an old woman. I'm past the time of childbearing. I know my body no longer bleeds." David.
Yeah, there's a dichotomy in here because Abraham has confidence in himself that he can sire a child. Because don't forget, after Sarah dies, he has children with Hagar.
No, it's before. That's coming up. We're going to talk about Hagar. We're going to talk about Lot's wife, who's not named. We're going to talk about Lot's daughters. There's a lot.
No, but he had children. Remember, it says.
Not Hagar. He had Hagar
After Sarah's death.
before Sarah.
Right,
That's
but
next week's
this
Torah
one,
portion.
I understand
Right.
that. But afterwards, it said he gave everything to what do you call it, Isaac, and sent his children away with gifts. So this is also after. He actually marries Hagar. That's why her name is changed to Keturah. And that's Rashi. That's not me.
That's commentary.
Okay, so he does have children after Sarah passes away.
Fair. Right? So the text teaches that, right? So that we understand that after Sarah dies, Abraham goes on to have more children. He's still an old man. His virility, his ability to father a child, to sire a child, is called into question in the text.
But he does.
But physiologically, we also understand that bodies age differently, and so whereas ovulation, menstruation is a necessary part of pregnancy and childbirth, for people who have penises who ejaculate semen, that's virility is a as a longer course. And so like, it's confusing to me to hear that a man who's 100 is having children. And also like, it makes sense according to how Torah understands what's possible. But Sarah is calling attention to the fact that this doesn't make sense. This makes sense for me, for my body, for my age, for what is supposed to be possible. So the text calls out this question, well, how? It shouldn't be possible. With Abraham, it's maybe possible. Maybe not easy, maybe not likely.
I think she laughs because she knows it's possible.
You think she laughs because she knows it's possible? Can you say more? You mean for him?
And for her. I think she knows Abraham because he's already close to 100 and he's having children. And so why not her? Okay, if he can do it, she can. But it's the.
But she's already 90. I mean, why not already?
She's laughing now. I have to carry a child. I have to go through, a pregnancy.
Okay.
And she's laughing at that.
So then take it one step further. So if she's laughing because she knows it's possible, is that joy then that she's expressing? Because if she knows it's possible, then hooray! She can have a baby. Then how is that different from what Abraham does? Right? Why is Sarah laughing?
I think maybe even more so than joy, a lot of the time laughter just means surprise.
Surprise? Release? Excitement? Confusion? We don't know. We don't know. We're also not, yeah.
Maybe she wasn't really 90, but people looked at her as if she were 90, the way they do to us. Looking at old women or men, but mainly women, as being much older than they really are. Maybe she wasn't so old. Maybe she was in her 40s.
No.
Maybe, but her body wasn't bleeding. Whether she was 40 or 90 or 25.
Does it say that she wasn't bleeding?
It does. It does. I think the thing is, we don't know and are further confused when Sarah enters Abimelech's palace. It's an old sister-wife situation, which is a motif actually that runs through. It happens a few times, more than once actually, between Abraham and Sarah. And it's another point of confusion. Well, why? We find out at one point that Abraham is like, he maybe feels afraid. There's a famine, and so he wants to, make sure that they have.
Actually, at 100, Abraham was middle-aged. He lived to 175. Because he was at 100, middle-aged, like a 40-year-old man.
And
People who are listening can't hear David.
so David is saying that, according to the math of the Torah, if Abraham is 100 at this point, he lives to 170, he's a middle-aged man. Okay.
I want to, actually, I really appreciate, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. Your name.
My name?
Yes.
Anne.
And I just really appreciate what you said, and I just want to say that responding to what you said and maybe giving one answer to Vicky, I definitely do not believe that these ages were actual ages. I do believe that the ages, not so much mystical, but speak about kavod. Like for some of us, like my white hair is a symbol of what I've earned, what I have accomplished in my life, a sense of, in Judaism, the older you get, it's the more respect you get. So that in the Talmud, it's at 60, at 70, at 80, you just begin to receive your strength. So I wanted to say that. So when you bring up, Anne, maybe this has something to do with how people look at you. I love that. It's another question, as Jack likes to say to us, hold that question. Perhaps it's of kavod, perhaps it's derision, like, oh, she's an old person, she's not capable. And the only other thing I wanted to say, just because we're getting into the nitty-gritty of she's no longer bleeding, is just to say that there are young women who their menstruation cycle is not regular. And sometimes they enter into, they don't realize even that they're menstruating and they get pregnant. Or people who, just a really beautiful piece, people who think that they can't have a child and then actually just become pregnant. And it's not immaculate conception. It is that sometimes your body, and that's what I hear Jack saying to us, sometimes there's just something bigger than you and your body does something that you couldn't have anticipated.
Thank you.
You know, the thing is, God, I don't think will change nature, but he will enhance it. Abraham and God talk to each other like I'm speaking to you. Okay. So the thing is, if he wants Sarah to bear a child, she will have a period.
Apparently, right? Because that's what happens, right?
The only way she can have a child is if she has.
I mean, we're not told, right? I mean, we're to understand that it's miraculous, and it is. Either way, whether like God causes her to resume ovulation or just makes a baby, it's still miraculous, right? And the point that we're told specifically that she no longer has the time of women, like that's important because it's not supposed to be possible, and here it is happening. But I want to move back to Sarah for a second in the house of Abimelech, because it's not just Abraham who says, say you're my sister. She's complicit. Abimelech says, like, you told me she was your sister. And she said the same thing. She concurred. She was complicit in the lie. Why? Yeah.
A thought that keeps coming to my mind, and I don't think it's probably accurate in terms of the Torah, but it might be. Women listen to their husbands, you know, even if they didn't want to, or sometimes they told themselves, that's my role, is to do as my husband says. I have a feeling there's a deeper reason for that,
Right.
but just on a cultural level, I think she was doing what her husband told her to do.
That's so interesting. So Vicky is offering that, we're wondering why Sarah is complicit in Abraham's lie. Because her husband said so. And that's what's expected of her. Of course, we read later, God says to Sarah, God says to Abraham, listen to your wife. Do what she says. And turns that all upside down. Sarah is complicit here. She is a woman who's acting with agency. And so for me to think of she's just doing what her husband says, I feel like that denies Sarah some of her power. She's in on it. She's also trying to survive. She's also trying to move the story forward. She's just been promised a child. If this is what safety requires, just what my husband says, Sarah is making a choice. She's an active agent of the story. She concurs. She is complicit in Abraham's sister-wife story that they tell to Abimelech. She is not a passive agent here. He says, you told me too, that you were his sister. So I just want to give that honor to Sarah. She's not just along for the ride. She's part of this story. She is an essential part of this story.
Vicky, so when Sarah wants to send away Ishmael, her daughter, and that's his son, he feels terrible about it. And God says, listen to her.
Listen to your wife. We're going to get there. First, actually, so we've looked at just briefly, that Sarah, the first part of this story. What happens next? It's a bit of a scene change. There's a lot of Torah, top 10 Torah stories in this parsha. We read section of this parsha on Rosh Hashanah. We read about the Akedah. What's happening next? What's that? Not yet. Fire and brimstone. We're at Sodom and Gomorrah. So the story's taking a bit of a turn. What happens? Okay, so Abraham argues. It's been decided. God decided that He's going to destroy the city of Sodom, and Abraham's like, well, if there's 50 righteous people, if there's 40, like is the source of the universe going to create, or sorry, to cause destruction when redemption is possible? Do we not believe in redemption or in tshuva and repair? And so Abraham argues with God. That's a story for another time. But there's this threat of destruction. And so angels visit and then draw Lot and Lot's wife and daughters out of the city. And along the way, because apparently Lot, who's Abraham's nephew, is among, I want to say he's among the righteous, but actually escapes on merits of Abraham. Outside of the city, on the way, elsewhere, away from the destruction, but told explicitly, do not look back. And what happens? Who looks back? Lot's wife, who does not have a name. But Lot's wife, fleeing destruction, pauses and looks back. She looks back at the destruction, at everything she's ever known, her entire life, including like her sons-in-laws and daughters-in-law, the earth that formed her, the community that shaped her, everything she's known. She looks back and watches it destroyed. And what happens? David has the answer. Right. And what happens to Lot's wife? She's turned into a pillar of salt. That's what we're told. What do we make of this story? What a strange turn of events. Turn, get it? She turns. Yep.
You know what I think? It's absolutely funny to me. Here Abraham is trying to save nameless, faceless people, 50, 40, 30. And God says, I want you to sacrifice your son. He says, okay. without blinking an eyelash. So I think it's a tremendous dichotomy of why those nameless, faceless people meant so much to him. Yet his own son, all right, I'll have it. I don't know.
Okay, so David's making a point that, to Abraham, they're just names, they're nameless numbers, figures, concepts, theoretical people. And so I'm going to take that one step further and offer that, to Lot's wife, that's not so. These are her people, the neighbors, the baker, the midwives, everyone else. So while Lot's on his way elsewhere, to a small place, that's what that means, Lot's wife pauses and is like, how can I not look back? Of course, like Sarah, the commentary is not so kind to Lot's wife. It's a punishment. She disobeyed. She's punished. She's turned into a pillar of salt. She will stand there for eternity in the shame of her disobedience. Can we offer a different read of Lot's wife? Rabbi?
So I just love the way that you say she paused, because it reminds me, and I think about the Ukrainian people that we are meeting and supporting, who are living here in the United States and in other places in the world, and their hearts, they're looking back. Their hearts are where their stories are. Their families have been for generations. I think that I so understand Lot's wife. I think, though, of Lech Lecha, of Abraham and Sarah's journey, and I realize that perhaps the Torah is suggesting to us that if we want to make a break with something, our heart has to lead going forward, that we can't remain where we were. And that's true not just of people who have to exile a nation, but it's true of stages in our life. Even when something pulls us backward, that can be a complicated thing if we're constantly living in the past. And that there's this call to actually a cautionary tale, a gentle guidance perhaps, Jack, that when we go forward, we have to go forward.
It's beautiful, yeah.
I love that, and it just reminds me that we can't take this piece of literature literally, because I I did take the Torah literally as a child, and I could give you examples why. I was thinking about that this morning. Oh my God, I took it so literally. But we have to learn, I think, at least I'm learning, that this is all symbolic. And I get all turned up and riled up and upset. How could this happen to these women? You know, because a lot of the time it's the women. And how could Abraham be so mean? You know, I get
Cavalier,
so,
right?
what?
Cavalier.
Cavalier, but I mean about like with Isaac. To me, that was like really mean. But you know,
Be Ishmael. Oh,
no,
yeah,
Isaac.
yeah, I understand.
But anyway, I really am learning more and more the more I come to services that we have to give other meanings to this, or I don't like God the way it's depicted in the Torah. I just don't even like God, you know? And I have to learn to, that's my first reaction. Let's get past that first reaction.
Past the literal read. Well, you know, it's actually, if we're taking like a bus tour south in Israel to like your tour guide will like invariably be like, there's Lot's wife, you know, there's the pillar of salt, that like, you know, she turned back and like there she is, right? A monument to her disobedience. But what if Lot's wife's pause and her turning back is an act of compassion and witnessing? And what if she made a choice? She made a choice. She disobeyed. She disobeyed a divine command. Go. And she made a choice.
Wow.
To look back without the past, without the history. What's the future? It has to be both. You can't leave one for the other. And so, like symbolically, like Lot's wife becomes like part of the landscape. She's no longer like differentiated. She's just she's like immersed as like an eternal witness. Destruction happened here, pain, loss, and she turned to watch. And to my mind, like actually reads as the moral authority here.
Who is? I'm sorry.
Lot's wife. She refuses to pretend like it's not happening and just go on her way.
Wow.
She refuses to look away from the suffering of everything she's known or everyone she's known. Yeah.
She's a monument of compassion.
A monument.
Wow. Wow.
Can I add one thing?
Please, yeah.
So, not just not reading literally, but I think a lot about some of the hardest things that happened in my life. I try not to think of them as good or bad or mean or not mean, but I try to think about the fact that even something so challenging and difficult can open me to something that's possible, something that I had not expected. And I think this is theologically, and you know, in our class, we're going to be speaking about different theological approaches to the divine. And again, I'm going to use Jack's phrase. How does one see divinity even in darkness? And so what I'd like you to do is not just not read it literally, but I'd like you to push yourself to not see it in such black and white, you know, that, oh, if Abraham is mean, you know, the commentators say that he was full of faith. And you know, I would say we all compromise our children at some point. I compromised my children, Vicki, by doing my work, by putting you guys first. And yet they've grown into such independent, loving, compassionate people. Maybe it's not one or the other.
I love that. Thank you.
And wanting to add to Debbie's point that like a monument to compassion and a bit of like righteous defiance. No, I'm not going to look away. That's where Lot's wife story ends in our Torah. But Lot's daughters carry on the story.
Yeah, to go back
It's a tough
thinking
one.
about literal, I think one of the commentators said, if you read the Torah as if it's an ordinary book. It just, there are people who could write a better one.
It's a good point.
To understand the sod.
Right on the nose.
The what? I'm sorry.
The esoteric meaning of it.
Oh, yeah.
If you read it like it's an ordinary book, that's what it is. And they actually did say there are people who could write a better one.
That's right. So that's why we need to be careful readers of Torah. It's like we're taught to not, we can't change anything. We can't change it or can't take anything out. We can't like read past the parts we don't like. And also like, we can't just like take it at face value. It just, there's more, far more. And so we turn and we turn and we dig, and you know, as time goes by, we return to it again and again. We've just read parts of Air. We're reading it again. We'll read it again. This time, next year, stay tuned, over and over. And each time, something else.
Wow.
Now, Lot's daughters. So we've learned Sarah has agency. She's making decisions. We don't fully understand what's happening for her emotionally, but we're remaining curious. Lot's wife takes a stand, moral stand, refuses. Lot's daughters. I see Vicky.
Well, I'll never forget last year when Rabbi did commentary on this, and she started saying, I just hate this. There's no, you know, you like said you hate it, and there's no rationale for it, or whatever you said. I love that so much, because it's just, to me, and I don't want to misquote you, so you can tell me what you really said in a minute. But you really, Rabbi really said how much she has dislike for this portion, because Lot said to his guest, leave those three strangers because they're blessed.
Right.
Leave those three strangers. Take my daughters who have
Take
never
my virgin
been
daughters,
in the land
right.
before. And then they get him drunk later, which was good for them, you know. But you know,
Well, so say more. So what Vicky's saying is that, like, you know, the first part of the story we read that Lot offers his virgin daughters to the angry mob outside the door to try to appease them. Later in the story, after they've fled from the destruction, seems like there's only Lot and his daughters. And so his daughters are like, well, it's on us. You know, we need to make a move, make something happen. Is it good for them?
well, not really ethically, but I mean emotionally. But I mean, I think that they had to do something psychologically to get back to this horrible betrayal by their father.
Interesting. So, to your mind, your read is that when Lot's daughters, you know, get him drunk and lay with him, it's as.
Oh, I didn't know that they laid with him. I missed that.
So the idea is that, like, so they're like, well, there's no other men and there are no other people on us to repopulate.
Oh no.
And so he's the only one around. I mean, one wonders where they got the wine, but somehow they have wine. They give it to Lot. He gets drunk. They get pregnant.
Oh, see, I didn't go that far in the story.
So this is the question, like, is it good for them? Of course, this is not the first time. Remember Abraham and Sarah? It's like, she's my sister. Like, the specter of incest is like hovering, right? It's running throughout this, and it's coming up again. And, you know, you read this story at face and you're like, ooh, it's a father-daughter situation that's expressly forbidden in a few books later. But here we are. Is it good? Is it not good? What do we make of Lot's daughter's decision? Yeah.
You know, things happen so that other things that were supposed to happen will happen.
Things happen so that other things that were supposed to happen will happen?
What happens if
Vague.
What happens if Lot's wife came with them?
We don't know. That's not the story that's told.
That story would not take place, guaranteed. They wouldn't have to sleep with their father. He had his wife.
Fair enough, but here we are. Only Lot and his daughters in a cave with a bunch of wine.
I was going to say, this reads very much like the story of Noah.
Like the story of Noah.
They're believing that they're the only ones left on Earth.
Well, they were the only ones left on
Well,
Earth.
they weren't really, but
Yeah.
from their perspective.
Well, they were. So Lot and his daughters were not, as far as we know. For Noah and his family, there was no one else. Right, there's like a continuation, or there's like a connection, a thread between these stories about like, well, I guess we have to repopulate. And so Lot's daughters make the decision to get their father drunk, lay with him so that they can have children. But what do we make of this?
I'm touched by what you said before as being active, meaning that they are the ones who actually, they have agency over their own choices.
They made a decision. They look around, they're like, well, we have to do something. Was it good for them? Question mark. Seems like, a father who's prepared to offer up his virgin daughters to an angry mob. Maybe they don't have the best relationship. Maybe it's not what they would want to do or not told. It's just what's done. That's what has to happen. What's that?
Did that happen? That they were basically raped by this crowd?
Not according to this story. They were offered up to this crowd. The commentary suggested it was like for sexual purposes. It's a question mark. There's still an offering of, take my children instead of me, or instead of these men.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't know. Okay.
We don't know.
I'm taking it too
We
literally.
could maybe assume that their relationship was strained. Hard to say, but they're still faced with this choice, and they make a decision. And I just want to lift that up. Like I just want to notice and to note that here are these two women. The edge of the world, the end of the world, as far as they know. All there is wine and their father, and they make a decision. And from their children, the Moabites, the Ammonites, who of course later are the enemy nations of Israel, so like there's lots to say there. But just if we focus on the choice, on the intention, they took that power. Nobody's told them to do it. It's not because my husband said so. It's not because God said so. There's agency. And so I just want to lift that up. There are more acts of power.
So before you go on,
Yes.
so in general, I want to just share with you that the commentary sees Lot's daughters as righteous, as religious women who actually, it's true that the Moabites and the Ammonites become our enemies, but it's also true that our monarchy comes from them. So that they actually, in this theme that Jack is presenting to us, that they have an active role. They provide continuity and possibility when we came to the end of the road.
A little like planting of a seed. And of course, like first, book of the first parsha of Genesis, like we're reading about, like this, the tree of knowledge. The seed is planted. There's a tree. Noah plants a vineyard. Abraham later in the story will plant a seed. Like there's a planting that's here, and they're part of that planting. It's not Abraham. It's not Noah. It's not even God. It's Lot's daughters. And now we're at Hagar. Of course, so we start, the story of Hagar doesn't start here. Again, we've talked a bit about like we're taking a snapshot, like where these women are in Torah time in their story. We read to last week's parsha, and Hagar, who's Sarah's handmaiden, who births Ishmael for Abraham, says, "I'm leaving." Ventures out into the wilderness, like of her own volition. Messenger comes, says, actually, you have to go back. And of course, like, there's a question about, like, well, she's enslaved. She's not wanted. She's mistreated. You're telling her to go back. Like, how is that ethical? How does that make sense? But the text actually says, submit yourself. Present yourself. Return yourself. You are integral to the story. You need to return to this. You're out of place, and for the story to unfold as it needs to, you need to submit yourself. It's not submit. It's like you have a choice to return.
Wait, question?
Keep below. Yeah.
Who?
Hagar.
I didn't know she came back.
She came back. So she comes back, and it's only later that we're reading in Genesis 21 where she's cast out,
Oh.
where Sarah becomes upset. Again, we don't fully understand why. You know, is she jealous? Is she worried about Jacob? Or she's worried about Isaac. We don't know. We don't know the full story. We don't know people's motivations. And like that's where we started. We don't know why Sarah laughs. We don't know why she is complicit with Abraham's life. We don't know. And what we do know is that Hagar goes back and is cast out because Sarah feels some type of way about her being there. And then here's Hagar out in the wilderness. And the picture that's painted in Lech Lecha is of Hagar like being spoken to directly by God, the only woman in the Torah that happens for.
Wow.
It's like a divine, there's like revelation. And more than that, Hagar names God. Hagar doesn't just like call out the name of God. Hagar names God. We look at Genesis, I don't look too far back, because what's interesting is that like the story, what we understand about Hagar is different from Lech Lecha than it is from Ba'er. Like we get a very different picture of who she is. Why? Because we're complex people. We're not just like this person at this time and this different person later. We're like, there's growth, there's change, it's sort of this. So if we look backwards at Hagar, we see that she is in a relationship with the divine that no other woman in the Torah has. At this point, up to this point, or after. And it's promised seed. Like Abraham is promised seed. It's promised that you will have generations, a great nation. Mishma, what do you make of it? And it's not Sarah. It's not Rebecca. It's Hagar. Powerful. There's so many powerful women in this book. I mean, throughout. And like we're told part of the story about like who Hagar is, and it focuses on Abraham, or it focuses on Sarah. And we're told a bit about what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, but mostly we hear about Lot. Lot's wife and Lot's daughters.
Can I take a guess?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me that that God doesn't talk to other women, but maybe in this instance it makes a little sense because from what we've talked about, God has created all these different people, not just the Jewish people, not just the Israelites. So maybe in this context, the source is talking to her to encourage her that her life will go on, but in a different context, with a different people. That God is not just of one person, of one group. God is of all, of diversity of people. That's probably not what the Torah meant, but I'm reading into it.
That's beautiful. Any thoughts about what Vicky just said?
Certainly what her name means. Her name is Hagar, the stranger, or the one who dwells with us. So you could really substantiate your idea, your thought is that connection to the divine happens through covenant, and connection to the divine, like my teaching last night, is reflected when we see the divine in any one of us. And there's a piece with Hagar that God opens her eyes. It opens up her eyes so that she can see and then by extension act. And I think that that's a piece. What makes us holy is our actions. And she, as Jack again has presented to us this morning, she is a woman of action. She throws her lot in with Abraham and Sarah. The commentary suggests that she might be Pharaoh's daughter, that actually she may have come from nobility and chose, in the same way that Abraham and Sarah chose to go forth, that Hagar may have chosen to be with them. And then when things get rough between her and Sarah, and she flees not once but twice, as Jack said to us, she is able to transcend the relationship with the divine, both to hear, to be seen, and to act, which I might say that becomes Jewish. Like, right? We say our faith is action when what you feel is what we do.
And one more point I just want to lift up about Hagar. I mean, to Rabbi's point, like, God opens her eyes so that she can see, but first she refuses to look. Ishmael is starving, dying in the deserts, exposure, and she looks away. She said, I won't watch this. And it's only after she refuses that God opens her eyes. It's like there is an initial act of defiance that God steps in and is like, okay, I'll show you. What happens next? The women disappear. The women disappear from the Parsha through the rest of the story, and it's, just endless commentary about why we don't hear from Sarah and the story of the Akedah. Where's his mother? Why doesn't she know? Why doesn't Abraham tell her? What does she think? There's, commentary. She dies upon hearing that he was killed, that he was almost killed, but we don't hear from her. The next thing we hear is the next week's Torah portion, which I won't spoil. You have to stay tuned. But from this portion, wanting just to raise up the stories that are more often told about women rather than by women, and just invite you to be curious about what their experiences were. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Yasha Koach. Yasha Koach.
I read the book. I only read one book over and over. Oh, I've come undone.
Turning together to page 374. As you are able, if you can rise. Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizkav shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayaharem keren le'amo, tehila lecho chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati, al tazovu. Behold, it's not always easy to understand, but this complicated, beautiful teaching is my gift to you. Hold on to it. Eitz chayim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yamenu kekedem. Please be seated. A moment just to reflect on announcements. If you are someone who is planning to go to Israel with us, we will have an informational meeting in December, and the we need a confirmation of your intention to travel with us. Look for the email from Alexa. We need a deposit and we need to close numbers because we're holding hotels and we need to honor that respectfully. Tomorrow morning, religious school, our Jewish learning adventure at 9:30. Ongoing learning with me Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as reflected in the website, on the website. The Strategic Planning Committee invites you to be part of planning for the future of our community. As you know, the Rabbinic Search Committee has indicated 3 dates where you can be heard. What is it that's important to you that the search committee can take to heart as they begin their search for my predecessor who will join us, our community, in June of 2024. The 3 dates are Monday, November 14th, virtually. The second date is Wednesday, November 30th, in person, and Sunday, December 4th, in person. All of that information is on the website and in This Week and Beyond. It is my hope that every single member of this congregation will be part of one of those 3 meetings so that you can be heard. And this is really important. On Tuesday, November 15th, here at 7 p.m., together with our interfaith houses of worship, the churches of all faiths, and the mosque, we have our Kingston Interfaith Council Gathering of Gratitude, Tuesday, November 15th at 7 p.m. The gift that is before us. Let's figure out how we keep this annual tradition going of dialogue, sharing gratitude, and dwelling together with our neighbors. Tat Shabbat next Saturday at 9 a.m. Daniel is ready for this. He wants to hear these prayers. At 9 a.m. from 9 to 9:30, I'll be on the floor signing with the babies, and also an opportunity for the 2 of you to get to know other young families with babies. Friday, December 2nd. This is really important. This year we decided we're going to try each season 4 Friday nights where rather than sitting in the pews, we are going to hold a traditional Shabbos meal, like what you would experience at my house or maybe at your house. We're not going to do prayers. We will hold a place for healing and for Kaddish, but it's going to basically be singing, social, enjoying the meal together, and then dialoguing on Torah in a Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat way around the table. Bring a dairy, veggie, no meat, please, meal for yourself and more to share with the people that will be sitting at your table. 4 times this year, we want to give this opportunity for the whole congregation to just welcome Shabbat around the table. This is our home. We want to share it with one another. Zemer and musical offerings. Please join our Chazanit, our student Chazanit, Alexandra Schleuder, who gets to be off today, and you all get to put up with me and Jack singing. But Alex will be back next week. If you would like to join and be among the people singing or playing music, go to Cantor, CANTOR, @CEHV.org, and Alexandra will help you to know when we are scheduling. I know it sounds early, but Hanukkah's around the corner. Hold Sunday, December 18th at 4 p.m. in your calendars, a save the date. Mahjong is back here at synagogue if you love Mahjong. Don't forget our high holiday lockbox appeal has morphed into our annual lockbox. Please visit if you haven't had the opportunity or if you can visit it again. All of our Tikkun Olam work, the backpack project for children in our neighborhoods who need help for their school supplies, are partnering with the Ukrainian American Youth Association to provide winter socks, blankets, and other needs of the people. And of course, our food access and security initiative, where we make sure that there is equal access to our neighbors so that they and their children are not hungry. Look at our website and find out the ways that you can be involved.
Let's add that tomorrow, 11 a.m., first meeting of the CHV Dirty Learning Youth Program. Parents, young people, find me here at 11 as we dig into our year-long exploration of Musar, value-based Jewish learning, arts, and outdoor education.
598. Our thoughts turn at this time to our loved ones who have departed the earth. Our friends, members of our family, our neighbors, or we who have lost someone dear to us. Every service gives us the place to bring the blessings of their memory in to our hearts. We begin with those who have recently lost someone. If your loved one died in the last week, month, or year, and you are with us, please stand at this time. As a congregation, we all send our love to Rick Lewitt and Allison Gus as Rick completes his Shiva for his father, Bill Lewitt. And I am with the full list of the members of our congregation, those who may be with us virtually, who are in their Shana, their year of grief. And as I say the name of loved ones who are observing Yartzeit, the anniversary of the death of their loved one, if you are here with us or with us virtually, please stand when I call your name. Fanny Beck, Claire Becker, Michael Becker's mother, Morris Block, Joseph Boris, Harold Feldstein, Suzanne Zimbler's father, Ida Gasul, Felice Gasul's grandmother, Elliot Golden, Rex Hill, Melanie Hill's husband, Harry Himes, Aaron Klein, Lou Klein and Phyllis Klein Rear's father, Joseph Kramer, Abraham Meisner, Rose Michaels, Samantha Michaels' grandmother, Joan Audrey Rose, Lauren Rose's mother, Harry Schwartz, Jeff Gold, Yosef Ben Yitzchak Fasura Razel, Carmel Gold's husband, and Rebecca Jones. Dear family, extended family for Vicky Felder. And so we stand together with Vicky and with those who virtually are standing, holding a place in our hearts for the martyrs of our people who left no one to say Kaddish, holding a place in our hearts for the people of every race and nation who live their lives as a blessing to humanity. Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei Adam ve'imru. Amen. 625 as we close this morning. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol בחפצו כל, אזי מלך, שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, יהיה נשא וחסד כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, אחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, להיות נשא וחסד כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. סברי ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Amen. May your Sabbath be sweet and overflowing, Shefa Kol Tov, for the ways that we are sustained, for the gifts from the earth, for the way that we sustain one another in community. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. So a wonderful, wonderful thank you to Barry, who just keeps us on track with live stream and makes it possible for you to be with us, those who have not joined us in person. And a Yesher Koach to our rabbinic intern for his inspiration, for his presence, and for the blessings he brings to our clergy team. Come, break bread, and it's just wonderful to share the morning with you.